I come from an administration of George W. Bush and Richard Bruce Cheney that committed war crimes. This administration has committed more war crimes in the last few days than I think any country since Adolf Hitler.
A retired Army colonel and former Bush administration official has just said in no uncertain terms that the United States is not only committing war crimes in Iran, but we are destined to lose this war with Iran, and the consequences of this folly is going to mean absolute disaster for the United States. I meant to cover this a couple of days ago when the interview first dropped, and I just didn't get a chance because I was out of town. I was at my best friend's wedding, but it's still super, super important what he's saying, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's take a look at what he has to say about what's going on with Iran and what the fallout will be.
Colonel Wilkerson, welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you respond to what has taken place over this last 11 days, starting with the diplomatic talks in Geneva between Iran and the United States? And as those talks were just wrapping up, U.S. and Israel attacked Iran and killed the supreme leader there. Your response?
Yes, and Amy, for the second time, we violated international law in that respect and just common human decency. We have bombed civilians relentlessly. We have bombed a school. We have bombed a hospital. We have struck facilities in the nature of Tehran's oil capacity that is now putting black poison all over 10 plus million people. And we are essentially not bombing ballistic missile sites and bombing war materiel. We're bombing people. We took a lesson from the IDF, if you will. We are bombing people, as incidentally they are still doing in Gaza and doing now in Lebanon to a fare thee well. These are all war crimes. And one wishes with fond hope that someday we might be called before the bar of justice and have to account for these war crimes. Trump and Hegseth and Rubio and the other entourage of their national security complex have completely misjudged the nature of this war, as has to a certain extent Bibi Netanyahu. This is a country as big as Western Europe with 93 million people, probably 90 million of whom will fight us to the bitter death, who live in terrain that almost killed Alexander the Great. It is entirely inhospitable to military operations, and Trump is actually talking about putting ground forces there. And the only way he will be able to claim any nature of victory is to do that. Only that will be the end of the empire's presence in the Levant and the Middle East in general, because we will not be able to sustain that economically, physically. We do not have the soldiers or Marines to do that. But that's what he's talking about. This is pure nonsense.
All right, let's pause there because he does a lot all in one shot. He's saying that literally there's no way to claim any kind of victory unless you put boots on the ground. And if we do, that will spell absolute disaster. You're not going to get regime change just through an air campaign. You have to actually put boots on the ground. And if we do, we will waste billions and billions and billions of dollars doing this, and the United States will crumble as a result of this. This is the biggest foreign policy disaster since Iraq. I don't know why Trump thinks that this is a good idea. Like, this is a midterm year. Like, the elections are coming up. This war is extremely, extremely unpopular. Nobody except for the MAGA mouth breathers are actually in favor of this war, and it is going to spell absolute disaster for his presidency. Here, let's listen to a little bit more.
There was a column in Haaretz yesterday, and the title of the column essentially was Trump will chicken out in this war too. I'm sorry, he's not going to chicken out necessarily. That might be the tone intent he puts to it. He's going to be defeated, as are we.
Colonel, I wanted to ask you, we played that clip with Trump talking about all the damage that Iran has sustained, but there's been very little acknowledgement by the U.S. military or the White House to the enormous damage that has occurred to the U.S. military footprint in the Middle East for decades. All of these bases and a radar, multi-billion-dollar radar, were established throughout the region. And What's your understanding of the nature of the damage that has occurred to all of these bases, not just among the Gulf states, but also even in Iraq and other places of the Middle East?
Yeah, that damage is enormous. And I think what you're witnessing right now is the initial steps of the empire, the American empire's retreat from the Levant and the Middle East in general. I don't think we're going to be able to sustain our presence there after what's going to happen here, particularly if we stay at this for a long time and really do take significant casualties. We're already taking more casualties than people know about because the media is not being apprised of them. I don't think they have even a modicum of appreciation of what kind of casualties are going to result, though, especially if we put ground forces into Iran. And that is the only way, unless he just lies completely about it, that Trump is going to be able to assert any kind of real force with regard to this population. And to your point, in Bahrain, they have taken out billions of dollars worth of U.S. radar and equipment, including the vertical missile loading cranes. So now ships have to go all the way to Diego Garcia to load these weapons. They have essentially obliterated our capacity to carry out combat actions from a number of places in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Al Udeid is actually under threat now too. And this is all part of the warp and woof of our ability to carry out combat operations in the region. I'm not even sure our biggest facility for passing on troops, throughput facility that we used in both Iraq wars, is in Kuwait. I'm not even sure that that's up now and able to do anything. So how would you even get Marines or soldiers, God forbid, into Iran? That's a huge problem. They will sink the ships that are coming to deposit those troops wherever they're coming. We have not really damaged their ballistic missile capability. And the media blackout on Israel is keeping the American people from seeing the enormous degree of destruction to Israel, the latest component of which was a riposte to Israel's having struck their oil facilities on Haifa, their oil facility port. And Haifa is being taken down much the way Eilat was taken down by the Houthis, the Al-Ansar in the Red Sea, when we failed to be able to reopen the Red Sea. And that's the next step. The Bab el-Mandeb will be closed once the Houthis have gotten into action full time again. And 60% of the world's commerce passes through the Red Sea. It's not oil and gas exclusively. It's all manner of things, foodstuffs, commodities, and such. So this is a war with long legs. Trump has completely misinterpreted it. The only one who's interpreted it correctly is Bibi Netanyahu, and I think he's ready to use a nuclear weapon should it become as bad as it looks like it might right now, because Iran has not even begun to shoot its most sophisticated missiles. And now the second and third class of those missiles is getting through almost without opposition. Imagine what these Mach 3, Mach 4 missiles with huge warheads that have maybe 100 different other warheads they display all across an area are going to do to Israel once they're fired. And they're still there and they're still ready to fire.
All right. So that too is super, super important. So, he brings up the fact that like the media isn't covering the amount of damage that the United States and Israel is incurring because it's been hidden from them. The number of U.S. Soldiers' deaths and, just injuries in general. Also, we don't know about because it's been hidden from them. But the damage to like the radar systems, the multi-billion-dollar systems, this is a huge, huge, huge blow to the U.S. military. And the military bases all around the region and all the other countries that surround Iran have been hit. So we're sustaining huge, huge amounts of damage. And we're like a couple weeks into this. This is not even that long into the war. And what he goes on to talk about a little bit later on, aside from the fact that he's saying, like, look, if we stay at this for any length of time, this is going to be the collapse of the American empire. But what he says a little bit later on is he's like, we're having trouble just shooting down the Shahed drones and the missiles that Iran has so far. And Iran hasn't even gotten into like their more advanced missiles. And so if we're having trouble shooting these down, then we have no idea what's in store. And what's even funnier is that, like, apparently Trump has asked for a ceasefire a couple of times, and the Iranians are like, fuck no, we're not doing a ceasefire with you. And the reason that the Iranians are rejecting this idea is because they know all too well, especially because of what's happened in Gaza, is that anytime Israel or the United States says, hey, we want to do a ceasefire, wait, let's slow down, let's pump the brakes, what they really want to do is they just want to arm up again. So we talked about this before. The United States is running low on interceptor missiles, and these things cost like $1 million a piece. And in order to shoot down a drone or an Iranian missile, they usually take more than one of these to shoot it down. Now, these drones, these Shahed drones that they're flying into military bases and they're flying into buildings where like U.S. intelligence are, like hotels and stuff like that, they can make these drones for like $20,000. So you're talking about $1 million interceptor missile versus $20,000 drone. So you're talking about a 50-to-1 in terms of how much it costs us to defend these various things. And the United States has bases and people all over the Middle East. On top of that, the Iranians not only have their own intelligence, there's reporting that the Russians are providing intel to the Iranians, and the Chinese are also helping out the Iranians because they're allied with them. So we're going to war with Iran. It's Israel and the United States going to war with Iran, but we're trying to defend this enormous footprint of all of these places around the region that we hold while we're working with two very, very large countries that are also helping the Iranians with intel and, probably weapons and things like that. It's essentially Israel and the United States going to war, not just with Iran, but Iran and Israel, Iran and Russia and China and whatever proxies that the Iranians have around, whether that be like Hezbollah or whomever. And so this is the reason why this war is never going to go the United States way, because like we don't know even who to hit at this point. The Iranian leadership has been decentralized, and so one of the things that they don't know how to do anymore is like they don't even know who to negotiate with, right? You have like one person may say, okay, we'll accept that, and the other person may not. You've got all of these proxy militia groups that are going to start attacking. This is a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. And what he continues to say is the only way that the Trump administration is going to be able to claim any kind of victory is if they're able to actually put boots on the ground there and do regime change, and that will be the end of the empire as we know it. We will spend endless amounts of money trying to do regime change. We're going to kill thousands and thousands of people, not just Iranians, but U.S. soldiers in the process. We're going to destroy more and more and more buildings and infrastructure. And like he said, this is a guy who worked for the George W. Bush administration, okay? And he admits they did war crimes in Iraq. They tortured people. They killed civilians. In just a couple of weeks, they bombed like 20,000 buildings so far. They've bombed water desalination plants and things like that, which the Middle East relies on for drinking water, for fresh water. And like that's an attack on civilian infrastructure, which is also a war crime, not just like bombing people's houses and bombing oil depots and things like that. They're literally bombing the very thing that people have to have in order to live. Like they're bombing their water supply. So these are war crimes of like the highest order. And we're not going to be able to win this. The Iranians are going to fight us tooth and nail to the absolute death. And I think that if Trump continues on with this, we will waste more and more and more money, more and more lives will be lost. And then the other thing too, which absolutely drives me insane about this, is that whenever they tell you, oh, how are you going to pay for that, right? Like all of the left-wing things that people need and make sense. Like the government should actually provide universal health care for everyone that's free at the point of service. How are you going to pay for that, right? Or the government should make it so that you can go to college without going massively into debt. Well, how are you going to pay for that? But they can spend a couple $1 billion a day, every single day, no problem. That's nothing. They don't care. So they always have money to do stupid wars that are offensive and illegal and don't do anything to help the American people. Not a thing. In fact, it hurts us. It raises prices on everything. Gas prices are through the roof. Food prices are going up. The cost of any kind of good, shipping, is going up. But they have money to start this bullshit, but they don't have money for you when you need it. Anyway, I could go on and on. I would highly, highly recommend watching this entire interview on Democracy Now! It's about, I think it's like almost 20 minutes long, but this guy has a wealth of knowledge about the Middle East, and he's very, very, very adamant about the fact that if this continues for any length of time, it will be the end of the United States empire, and we're going to have to retreat from the region in totality, which in my opinion might not be that bad of a thing. Honestly, we waste way too much time in the Middle East trying to do regime change and nation building, and we don't invest anything here at home. Like, our infrastructure is falling apart, our roads, bridges, like water treatment, sewers, all of that falling apart. People don't have health care. People's wages are too low. You'd think that, after Iraq or after Afghanistan or after whichever one of these wars that we started, that it didn't do anything. Libya, we took out Gaddafi and Libya is now a failed state, right? It does nothing to help that country, and it does nothing to help the United States, the American citizens. You'd think that they would learn, but they don't actually care, because this war is not about protecting Americans like they pretend it is. This war is about protecting Donald Trump, because Israel has the dirt on Trump in the Epstein files. And also, this is about a greater Israel project and maintaining regional hegemony in the Middle East. But this war, at the end of the day, this war is for the billionaires. This is for the Epstein class. The people that make tons and tons of money off of going to stupid wars are the people who own stock in Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing and, whatever other military contractor that is providing the weapons or providing the equipment or whatever it is that we're doing. That's who this war is for. It's not for the American people. It's not to keep you safe. Anyway, like I said, go check out the entire interview. It's super, super informative. If you made it this far, please do me a huge solid. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Click the bell as well. That way, hopefully, YouTube will notify you whenever I drop another video. And hope everybody had a great weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.